I'm not gonna lie, Die My Love is a tough film to watch, but the acting is off the charts. So let's talk about it. Hey, I'm Mike, I study film, I work in TV, and if you love movies as much as I do, hit that subscribe button and get notified when new content's posted. Just a note, we're gonna get into some light spoilers, but nothing that will ruin the film for anyone who hasn't seen it. Die My Love is based on a 2012 book of the same name. It was written by Ariana Harwitz, an Argentinian author, and follows its main character into the French countryside where she battles postpartum depression and mental health issues. According to the interwebs, Martin Scorsese read the book in his book club and sent it to Jennifer Lawrence, thinking that if it were adapted for US audiences, Lawrence would be great as the lead Grace. Whew, there's a lot to unpack there. First off, Martin Scorsese's in a book club? And if you've seen Die My Love, you know that Grace goes through a shitstorm. I'm not so sure Scorsese is giving Jennifer Lawrence a compliment. Seriously though, Scorsese was right. Jennifer Lawrence is at her best here. It's not a pretty role, and she really pushes herself to pull it off. At times, she seems like two different people. Actually, maybe even a third. We'll get to that. The story was adapted to tell the story of an American couple from New York, Grace and Jackson, played by Jennifer Lawrence and Robert Pattinson, who inherit Jackson's uncle's house in Montana. At first, it seems like a fresh start, but almost immediately the wheels fall off. Grace gets pregnant, and we watch as her world falls apart around her. The film appears to be about a woman battling postpartum disorder, the depression that women often experience immediately following childbirth. But as it goes on, we realize that Grace is suffering from a deeper psychological disorder. Like I said, Jennifer Lawrence transforms herself. There are scenes where her mood fluctuates and she is quite literally a different person, but not like in a Dr. Jekyll and Mr. Hyde kind of way, like in a very nuanced, almost imperceptible way. Like I said, I noticed three different characters in Grace. You have Grace as we meet her at the beginning, then the Grace that is dealing with some kind of episode. Grace sort of fluctuates between these two sides of herself throughout the film. Then, after she spends some time in a facility to get some much-needed help, we get the version of Grace that is trying to hide her true self from the outside world. As I said, Jennifer Lawrence is spectacular. It is a very layered, nuanced performance, and it really shows off the commitment Jennifer Lawrence made to play this role. As if her performance wasn't enough, there's also Nick Nolte and Sissy Spacek as Jackson's parents. Nolte is suffering from dementia, and he and Grace share a secret bond. We get the distinct impression that Grace feels most comfortable with him, the other family member who is dealing with debilitating mental issues. After Nolte passes away, Sissy Spacek is left to grieve. She's dealing with her own kind of depression, and for a time, we see how each of the women deal with their individual issues. But it becomes clear that what Grace is dealing with is much deeper than postpartum. The film gives us Spacek's emotional decline to compare Grace's much steeper descent against. It's hard to tell what in the film is real and what is Grace's perception of reality. Once she's back from the facility, we see the house is in much better shape than it had been before. We see Pattinson dressed, whereas before we saw him mostly in a robe with socks and sandals. Was the state of the house and Pattinson's appearance just Grace's perception? It's hard to say. You may have noticed that I've specifically avoided talking about Robert Pattinson here. While I'm normally a fan of his, I think he may have been miscast here. Don't get me wrong, he's doing the best he can, but we know him for being a much more sensitive person from his role in Twilight and Mickey 17, and here, he sort of has to be a dude, not understanding, or maybe trying unsuccessfully to understand what his wife is going through, and that never really comes across. I would have much rather seen someone like Jesse Plemons in that role. Sorry, I'm fresh out of seeing Begonia, and Plemons' performance there is still haunting me. Finally, I'd be remiss if I didn't talk about the sound in Die My Love. At first, I was thinking it's in line with how someone suffering from mental illness might hear sound. The constant barking of the dog, music loud to the point of distortion, very abrupt, almost jump scare music cues. There's a very interesting scene where Grace is listening to Tony Basil's Mickey. Normally in movies, music plays under cuts happening on screen. What I mean is, if there is diegetic music in a scene, music that is physically playing in a scene on a radio or a record player, we're used to hearing the song continuing, even though the camera cuts to a different angle. But in Die My Love, in just one scene, when the camera cuts to a different angle of Jennifer Lawrence, the music cuts too, to a different part of the song, as if we're jumping around time. It's a small detail, but I thought it was a good way to show Grace's confused mental state. Ultimately, I would absolutely recommend Die My Love, but be prepared. It's a heavy movie, and maybe not great for date night. Anyway, those are my thoughts on Die My Love. I'd love to read yours in the comments below. If you like this content, interact with this video. I'd really appreciate it. As always, film is about community. I'm Mike, and I love movies.